Oh, look out. Here it comes, baby. The wrecking ball, the little 5'6" Sharky. He's coming up the street. And 6'3" guys are running. In fact, fucking everyone's running, dude. When Clark the Shark is just moping along because it's scary, baby. Just seeing me. Fear is what your brain gets, and fucking quick. And I want to apologize, you guys, to all the other reviewers on here. You guys don't stand a chance because I grew up with the music and I absorbed it like way better. I mean, being 5'6" or 5' nothing and albino and nobody likes me and I'm the last of 8 children in Torrance, Redondo Beach, gives me an advantage, an incredible advantage over everybody musically. It's why my band, The Greenhouse Effect, was so fucking good that it instilled fear into BAM magazine and liberals all over Hollywood, record labels, magazines, clubs, fucking you name it, dude. And the punk rock scene in Redondo and Torrance and Hermosa Beach. I'm like, dude, I know more about punk than fucking any of you. And you know I do. But unlike you punkers in Hermosa Beach, I know about Jeff Beck Truth and the Yardbirds and fucking you name it, baby, right here on the Clark the Shark show. In fact, I know more about every fucking thing politically. Dude, you name it. Molecular biology, I'm not kidding, right here on the Clark the Shark show from the amazing golden EIB sharkerphone. It's not a microphone, it's a sharkerphone because it was given to me by Tommy Lasorda from the Dodgers just before he died. And he was swearing with intense, profusive profanity at the golden EIB sharkerphone as he gave it to me. And when I picked it up, it was covered with Tommy Lasorda's saliva. I'll never forget, but it didn't matter. I polished it off and I was like, you know, this old fat Italian guy can swear and, you know, he thinks he's the real deal. But me, Clark the Shark, dude, I'm sorry, Tommy Lasorda. I'm the fucking real deal because I'm talking about Jeff Beck Truth, and I'm going to use that sharkerphone that Tommy Lasorda basically just threw on my lawn at 251 Paseo de Gracia in Redondo Beach. They all come to my house throwing it on my lawn. They don't have the guts or the fucking balls to come up on my porch and hand me the golden EIB sharkerphone with honor, pride, dignity, and integrity. They just fucking can't do it because they're so afraid of Clark the Shark. But Jeff Beck is not afraid, you guys, because he has truth. Long before Led Zeppelin 1 and 2, there was a guy named Jeff Beck. Now, Janis Joplin tried to rock heavy, but Jeff Beck showed her how it's done. And Steppenwolf tried to rock heavy. The Who tried to rock heavy. Everybody fucking tried to rock heavy, baby, but Jeff Beck's like, I'm going to show you fucking people what heavy really is because I'm Jeff Beck from the fucking Yardbirds, baby, and I'm going solo. And I'm going to make an album that is going to be the blueprint, not just for the 1970s, but the 80s, 90s, fuck, dude, 00s and beyond. Jeff Beck Truth. Now, if there is a letdown about this album, it might be Rod Stewart, but then again, no. I like Rod Stewart, at least on this album. And in the Faces, you know, and some of his early solo shit. But of course, he would get really fucking shitty later on, and to the point where, you know, it's kind of like Elton John or Hall & Oates or something. I won't even review any Rod Stewart because of what happened eventually to his career right here on the Clark the Shark Show. 1-800-449-8255. The Wolfman Jack on crack, baby. Number one on Venus, Saturn, Jupiter, planet Mars, Earth, even on planet Judas. If there is a planet Judas, I'm fucking number one there. But of course on Neptune and Pluto, you guys, all those aliens, you know, the fucking things that look like octopus and they fly really awesome UFO spacecraft. They love Clark the Shark, but especially, you guys, you know it, on Uranus, right here on the Clark the Shark Show, where I'm talking about Jeff Beck, Truth, 1968. This album really is the truth because it's way ahead of its time. And it's by a genius guitar rock god, you guys. Now let's frame the situation. The Yardbirds started out, originally they had this guitar player in the band named Eric Douchebag. And of course, Eric Douchebag is still alive today in 2024. Today's January 1, by the way. I'm already off to a fucking amazing start here on the Clark the Shark Show. But I don't wish Eric Douchebag like to die or anything. But if and when he does, you won't hear Clark the Shark crying or like with any glowing or glaring tributes to Eric Douchebag. Now, when Jeff Beck died a while ago, I was quite sad. Because when Jeff Beck got into the Yardbirds, he had everything that Eric Douchebag did not have. He had all the guitar talent, of course, of Eric Douchebag. But unlike Eric Douchebag, Jeff Beck had a sense of irony, a witty, funny sense of humor, and just all this stuff. He was just such an amazing guy to be around. And he probably would have stayed in the Yardbirds forever if not for his best friend, Jimmy Page, also joining the band. And of course, when both of these guys got into the Yardbirds, it wasn't going to work because we're talking about two chiefs, two genius guitar gods in one band. But thank God, thank the Lord above that Eric Douchebag was not around. And it was simply a battle between Jimmy Page and Jeff Beck. Two nice guys, a couple of noble chaps. I know Jimmy Page is kind of a fucking asshole, but I could never, ever say that about Jeff Beck because he has truth right here on the Clark the Shark Show. Now, when Jeff Beck left the Yardbirds, it was kind of a shock to everybody, especially the guys in the band themselves, because these three guys, McCarty, Ralph, and Chris Drasia were suddenly with the new guy, Jimmy Page. He wasn't really a official huge member of the Yardbirds enough for these three guys. To them, he was more like a junior member, and yet he was Jimmy Page, this incredible, talented guitar player who was just amazing. So they had to respect, revere, and regard Jimmy Page, but they weren't sure if they really liked him or something. And of course, it wouldn't be long. The Yardbirds would flame out and fizzle away. But they did leave us with one incredible album called Little Games that I reviewed. It's actually maybe my favorite Yardbirds album, you guys. And I'm wondering where they would have gone with Jimmy Page. Meanwhile, Jeff Beck hooked up with Rod Stewart, and he went and recorded this fucking amazing masterpiece here. And it really is the truth, because Jeff Beck is kind of saying, look, Eric Douchebag, he's not the truth. That guy's always kicking around, quitting bands, and he's just a fucking flake. And then he's like, Jimmy Page he's a great guy, but he's not the truth. I am Jeff Beck. Jeff Beck's like, I'm the fucking truth. Right here on the Clark the Shark Show, 1-800-449-8255. But this album here would revolutionize rock and roll music more really than any album in history. And you guys out there, you really know that it does, because, it's coming from me, Clark the Shark, number one. That ought to fucking tell you all you need to know, baby. But also, Jeff Beck from the Yardbirds. Now, let's isolate the matter here, you guys. He goes solo. He leaves the Yardbirds, which is a ballsy thing to do, because the Yardbirds, that's a private club of rock geniuses. And when you leave the fold and you branch out onto your own from that, dude, that's like fucking leaving Genesis or something, like Peter Gabriel or something. I mean, that's, you don't do that, The Yardbirds are going to burn out and fizzle and sparkle and fade when it's their time. But Jeff Beck had the audacity not only to leave the Yardbirds, but go out there and make a fucking kick-ass album that just literally beats the shit out of the Yardbirds and anybody else. I mean, he made Jeff Beck Truth with Rod Stewart, 1968. There's this one song on the album where there's a couple of guys from The Who, Keith Moon. We all know that track is fucking amazing, but this album perhaps maybe isn't amazing because of just that song or even that song. This album is amazing because it had never been done before. There had never been a sound quite this atmospheric, heavy, melodic, high energy, bluesy heavy, kind of like the Yardbirds, but no, kind of like Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, The Who, Cream, but no, you guys, nothing like that either. This is a sound that Jimmy Page would analyze. He would look at Jeff Beck Truth with Rod Stewart and Jeff Beck, and Jimmy Page would say, I gotta make an album that sounds like Jeff Beck Truth. Forget the fucking Yardbirds. I'm going into the future. And Jimmy Page was like, the way I'm going to get there is by fucking basically ripping off Jeff Beck Truth. And that's what Led Zeppelin 1 does. I mean, you look at Led Zeppelin 1 and John Bonham is Keith Moon and Jimmy Page is Jeff Beck. And Rod Stewart definitely is reincarnated with Robert Plant. And then, the whole Entwistle, Noel Redding, killer bass player guy thing is here too on this super group, amazing album. That basically every band after Jeff Beck Truth had to make an album like Jeff Beck Truth. You guys, right here on the Clark the Shark Show. And I'm not just talking about Jimmy Page and Led Zeppelin. I'm talking about everybody. Jethro Tull, The Who live at Leeds. Dude, fucking everybody. Anyone who rocked. Maybe even Beck, Bogart, and Appice or whatever, dude. I'm talking every band in history. Rush, Styx, Chicago, Eric Douchebag and his solo projects, various, Derek and the Dominoes, or, Harry Nilsson or Elton John or everybody, even Rod Stewart. Everyone looks back to Jeff Beck Truth more than any other album. And it's not so much why or how this album, it's when this album was. 1968, recorded in a time when no album sounded like this, like Jeff Beck Truth. Incredible guitar, drumming, bass. it's got that sound that the Who wishes they could do, that the Yardbirds didn't quite get mature enough to do. The Jimi Hendrix wishes he could tame his sound into this. And Jimmy Page and Led Zeppelin tried so fucking hard to be this. Jeff Beck Truth, right here on the fabulous, unbelievable, amazing, temptingly luscious Clark the Shark show, where you're getting a fucking delicious bite of truth, as in Jeff Beck Truth tonight, baby. And we're going to break it down. I know the stars are giving this 5. You know, All Music gives it a 5. Encyclopedia of Pop Music, 4. Dude, you don't give this a 4. It gets a 4.5 from Music Story. Rolling Stone Album Guide, only 3.5. Well, dude, you know what? Did Rolling Stone not like Rod Stewart? I mean, dude, please. Fuck Rolling Stone. What do they know? Don't go to any reviewers on YouTube, you guys. Don't go to Rolling Stone. You know where to fucking go. You go to Clark the Shark at 1-800-449-8255, the Wolfman Jack on fucking crack, because Shapes of Things, the Yardbirds song, Jim McCarty, Keith Relf, Samuel Smith, done totally different here by Jeff Beck on Truth with Rod Stewart. And I love it, you guys. Apples to bananas. You can't compare them. I love the Yardbirds version of Shapes of Things. And of course, I love David Bowie's version on Pinups, you guys. But there's something about the Jeff Beck Truth version. Fucking awesome. And Let Me Love You, killer, of course. This album does Led Zeppelin 1, 2, and 3 better than Zeppelin does. Morning Dew, fucking amazing, you guys. Amazing. Awesome. Of course, You Shook Me, later done by Zepp, the Willie Dixon track. I like this one more. I'm not super wild about Old Man River that closes out side 1, but, you know, Hammerstein, I've got to, you know, give it its props, baby, here on the Clark the Shark show. Side 2, I don't think is as good as side 1, but, you know, Jeff Beck and Rod Stewart, you know, are on this album, and I've gotta, you know, I've gotta love it, you guys. Green Sleeves, traditional arrangement. Surprised that Zepp didn't do that one. Rock My Plimsoll, Beck and Stewart, awesome. Beck's Bolero is the one I'm talking about that has, you know, Jimmy Page and Keith Moon, and it's just fucking amazing, you guys. It stands out like a thumb on the album. You know, it's one of the greatest songs in the history of rock music ever recorded. Beck's Bolero, the instrumental. For Keith Moon alone, but just the atmosphere and the beautiful melody, and it's too good for Jimmy Page. Usually, you know, Jimmy Page can write melodic and he can write nice shit, but he really is no songwriter, you guys. I mean, Zeppelin get by, you know, with the power of John Bonham, and his drumming's just amazing, and the power of Robert Plant. And I don't think of them as like songwriting or something, and they really don't have anything like Beck's Bolero by Jimmy Page. Blues Deluxe, Jeff Beck, Rod Stewart, awesome. And I Ain't Superstitious, another Willie Dixon track. You guys, it's all amazing. Come on. This album changed history. Every bit of every one of these songs. I know a lot of people can't, like, they hear Rod Stewart and they're like, Clark the Shark, it's a Rod Stewart album. And I'm like, no, it's not, because at the time in 1968, nobody knew, Rod Stewart was gonna, they didn't know, it was, you guys, let's go back in time. 1967 was psychedelia. The Who Sell Out and Sergeant Pepper and, the Stones, Satanic Majesties and all of that, the Hollies, Butterfly, and, the Beach Boys, Wild Honey and shit. And then all of a sudden, 1968 is just bands are getting more mature. They're getting heavy. It's not really heavy metal. It's more like hard rock. But there's definitely this heavy like thing coming, or you could call it metal, maybe not. But, it's more bluesy. It's totally different from 1966 when everyone was in a garage. It's related to that, but it's different. And there would never have been a version of Shapes of Things or Morning Dew in 1966 like this album, you guys. This was just a grown-up, mature arrival situation, not just for Jeff Beck, but for Rod Stewart, you guys. And I don't want people to think of Jeff Beck Truth as a Rod Stewart solo album, because it isn't, you guys. It's not. It's Jeff Beck Truth. Now, the weird thing was Rod Stewart would have all these hits after this album, not just solo, but with the Faces, and it was confusing. And somehow Jeff Beck Truth gets all wrapped up in the history of Rod Stewart, which is kind of a bummer, because I have to sit there and argue and say, you guys, it's Jeff Beck Truth. It's not Rod Stewart. He's just on the album and he's really good. But at the time, nobody really knew who Rod Stewart quite was yet. He was just kind of starting out. And I know he got these big hits on the radio in the early 70s and all that. And it kind of blurred the picture and muddied the waters. And it also caused a problem for Jeff Beck himself, because he had to constantly regroup and reinvent himself, sort of in the wake of the success of Rod Stewart, right here on the Clark the Shark Show. And in that regards, Jeff Beck struggled. His music was great. Beck, Bogart, Appice, he gets with those guys from Vanilla Fudge later on, and it's incredible, you guys. But I don't think ever again in the history of Jeff Beck does he do another album this great as this one from 1968, you guys. Never again. Right here on the Clark the Shark Show. That being said, you got to go check out all the Jeff Beck shit. It is amazing. It's a lot better than Eric Douchebag, and it is competitive with, the Who and Zeppelin and the Stones and Mick Taylor and all that. Jeff Beck is right there. But sadly, in history, and I do hear this a lot, people always come up to me and they're like, Sharky, how come everyone talks about Eric Douchebag? They talk about Pete Townsend. They talk about Mick Taylor. They talk about Jimmy Page. But they never talk about Jeff Beck. And I'm like, you guys, it is weird. But listen more carefully. Everybody's talking about Jeff Beck, always and all the time. And even more nowadays since he passed away, you guys. This important six-string axe-slinging rock god, Jeff Beck, one of the three genius guitarists in the Yardbirds. He deserves his place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and just in the history, dude, of the earth with the rock gods. And does it all start here with Jeff Beck, the truth? Maybe, maybe not, you guys. Before this, there was some incredible fucking shit with the Yardbirds. My favorite phase of the Yardbirds is the Jeff Beck shit. I definitely love the Jimmy Page Little Games shit too, you guys. And I'm not too wild about Eric Douchebag right here on the Clark the Shark Show. But if you're only 20 and you were born in 2004, 3 years after 9/11, after those terrorists flew those planes into our Twin Towers, I want you, 20-year-old who was born in 2004, I want you to go get into Jeff Beck. But even more than that, I want you to get into the truth of life. And you tell him right here on the Clark the Shark Show is where you fucking heard everything you need to know about life. Go buy this music, Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, or at a garage sale, or at the Rhodium in Torrance, or wherever you can find it. Fucking I don't care where. But you get into Jeff Beck, and you get into the truth. Even more important than the Yardbirds, I can't explain it. More important than Zeppelin or The Who live at Leeds. Much more important than Eric Douchebag or any project he was in. To me, this is more important than Cream. And that's fucking saying a lot, because Cream has Ginger Baker, you guys. But this album here, dude, fuck. I love this album, you guys. These people are all important. These personnel. God, dude, Mickey Waller, awesome. He's better than Keith Moon. Tighter or something. You know, dude, it's kind of a bummer that Rod Stewart is on this, and at the same time, no, because it's like he had to be on here, you know, with Ronnie Wood and just the whole deal, you know. Of course, John Paul Jones has a hell of a lot to do with this shit, you guys. And then, of course, Led Zeppelin 1 would recycle this entire fucking album, you guys. And they would grab all the glory, you know, with the huge, 5-8 million records sold and all that, because they're Led Zeppelin. But really, you guys, this is the truth. And it's so ironic. Jeff Beck did not know what was coming in the future when he exclaimed to the world that he had the truth. Rest in peace, my friend, Jeff Beck. God bless him. Fucking great guitar player, but a great human being. More than a great sense of humor, sense of irony. I love people like Jeff Beck, man. I get emotional thinking because kind of like Ronnie Wood, he's one of those cool fucking dudes you just want to hang out with. Yeah, me, Clark the Shark, a lot of people don't like me, but Jeff Beck would like me, and so would Ronnie Wood. They'd come up and be like, what's up, mate? You're all right. I mean, maybe even Rod Stewart, you guys. Who knows? Right here on the Clark the Shark Show, you guys, I want you to buy this music because it's important. And I want you to buy it tonight. And I'm out of here. Peace.